Hello and welcome to the Pickering, Rangel, and Payne Fellowships virtual workshop. My name is Paige Jennings and I am the National Fellowships Coordinator at the University of South Carolina. And today I will be talking to you about these three similar but also distinct diplomatic fellowship programs, which are all administered by Howard University. I'll also go over the process of applying as a University of South Carolina student or alumni. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so when applying to any national fellowship, it is good to keep in mind what the foundation is looking for, why this fellowship was created, and kind of who they're looking for, who they want to fund. So for these three different fellowships, they are all looking for someone who has a strong academic background. That means that they are looking for people who have challenged themselves academically and performed well. So for example, if you want to be an economic foreign service officer, then it's good to have a strong background in economics. So taking plenty of classes and doing well in them. Next, they're looking for someone who has a demonstrated commitment to public service, as evidenced by some of the activities that they have participated in throughout their undergraduate years. The next piece is they want someone who has a genuine interest in international affairs and or public policy, and that can be demonstrated through coursework that you've taken, as well as some extracurriculars that you have participated in during your undergraduate years. The next part, of course, they want people who are interested in a career with the U.S. Foreign Service and State Department. So even though you're only required to give 5 years of service as a part of this fellowship program, they want people who really want to have a long-term career with the Foreign Service. So that should be very clear in your writing and in your explanation as to why you want to join the Foreign Service. So if you are looking just for, graduate school funding and then a short stint within a Foreign Service, this probably isn't the best fit for you. It's usually pretty obvious to them, pretty apparent to them, at least at the interview stage of the process, whether or not you actually want a long-term career with the Foreign Service. So that's something to keep in mind. Next two pieces goes back to what I was saying about why this fellowship was created. So these different awards were all created to diversify the field of international affairs and public policy. So they are looking for people who come from diverse backgrounds, backgrounds who are historically underrepresented in international affairs in U.S. Foreign Service, and also students who have a demonstrated financial need. So as part of the application, you'll be required to write a 400-word financial statement, which outlines kind of your financial background. So that's whether you have undergraduate debt, whether you had to work full-time to get through undergrad and pay off those loans. Those kinds of things will need to be discussed in depth in that essay. So the first award that we're going to talk about, and I'll also group this with the next one, is the Thomas R. Pickering Foreign Affairs Fellowship Program. So the Pickering Graduate Fellowship provides up to $37,500 per year towards a 2-year graduate program at a US-based institution in an area of relevance to the Foreign Service. So students ask all the time, can I go anywhere for graduate school? Not really. If you're looking for an international graduate program, that will not apply here. You have to do it in the US. If you're trying to do an accelerated program, that also does not work. So make sure you're looking for a 2-year long program that is in the US, and it needs to be in an area that is relevant to the Foreign Service. Additionally, there are some schools, graduate programs that will provide supplemental financial assistance, and on the website, they do have a list of those institutions who have already said, yes, if a Pickering comes to our school and this money does not cover the full amount of tuition to our institution, we will help cover the difference. So it's good to look into that as well as you're kind of deciding which programs you want to apply for. In addition, you will have orientation to the program and the Foreign Service, just to give everyone same starting point of an understanding of kind of what the next couple of years will look like. Another great part of this program is that they provide 2 10-week-long internships. The first one will happen after the first year of graduate school, and it'll be in the State Department in DC. The second one will be after you finish your graduate studies, and that's an overseas internship at a US consulate or embassy. Next, each fellow will be given a mentor, so someone who is already in the US Foreign Service, and that will just help them get insight into kind of the lifestyle, expectations, the day-to-day kind of thing. And finally, which I'm sure most of you guys are aware of, which may be why you wanted to apply for this program, is that you will get kind of a direct path to the Foreign Service. So employment with the State Department is the end goal here, but there are some requirements. You do have to go through a security clearance process as well as a medical clearance. And if you are applying, that's something that we will talk to you a little bit more in depth about. But yes, you will be giving the direct path to the US Foreign Service. A lot of students have asked whether or not they have to take the FSOT. The answer to that question is yes. There are some pieces in the process, the traditional process, that you can forego as being a part of this cohort, but in general, a lot of the things do look the same as those who are applying for the Foreign Service through the traditional route. So the next award is very similar, like I said, is the Charles B. Rangel International Affairs Program. This program is almost identical. I want to say that it is identical, but their application processes are completely separate. So they are not talking with one another about who our finalists are here, who our finalists are there. No, we do encourage that you apply for both at the same time. We encourage you to use the same application. After all, you are the same person. So let's go ahead and take a look at the application or the benefits of the program. As you can see, it is pretty much identical. The writing on the website is awards up to $75,000 over 2 years. That still ends up being $37,500 per year. So it is the same financial support as the Pickering program. Again, you have the orientation to the program and the Foreign Service. You have the 2 10-week internships. The only difference is the internship on Capitol Hill the first summer. That's the one minor difference. Again, you'll get a mentor assigned to you, and you still have the same entry requirements that is applicable by law and the State Department policy. So yes, please apply for both. You just have to switch out your Pickerings from Rangel, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so the one that is not like the others is the Donald M Payne International Development Fellowship Program. So this is for students who are specifically interested in working in developing countries and working for USAID's Foreign Service. The program awards up to $96,000 over 2 years, and that includes tuition, fees, living expenses, and the summer internships. Again, you'll get orientation to the program and USAID's Foreign Service, which is different. So if you're not interested in working for USAID, if you're not interested in international development, because the type of FSOs that they have in USAID are a little bit different. So they may have education officers, they may have like agriculture officers, public health officers. So that is very different from the general US State Department's Foreign Service officers positions. So that's something to keep in mind. Your application for this one will look quite different from the other two. You'll also get the mentoring piece. You'll still get the 2 different summer internship programs, and then finally you'll get employment with USAID's Foreign Service, which again is unique. You will not be going to places like London, for example. So that's something that you really want to keep in mind. There are a lot of students who just want to apply for this one and not the other 2, or just the other 2 and not this one. So really take the time to look into what USAID's Foreign Service looks like and see if it's a good fit for you. Okay, so eligibility, application requirements, and timeline. So for all three of these, you need to have US citizenship because you will be a US diplomat. um, you need to have at least a 3.2 GPA, and you need to be planning to enroll in a 2-year-long graduate program beginning in fall 2021. Again, it needs to be US based. If you have already started graduate studies, that does not apply. You cannot do that. If you already have a master's, that is okay. You can start over and get a new master's degree as long as it meets the criteria of the foundations. The application requirements are all similar. You'll just have to give your general biographical information. You need to have your academic record transcript from all institutions of higher ed that you've attended. You will have 2 main essays, the first being the personal statement essay, and that's where you talk about your past, your experiences, where you're headed, your motivations for applying for the award, your motivations for pursuing a career in public service, that kind of thing. Then you will have the financial need essay. And so as I mentioned before, they do want to know why you need funding for graduate school. As you know, graduate school is expensive. So you need to kind of talk about your financial situation, frame it, and let them know why this is important to you, why it's important for you to get funding. Next, you need 2 letters of recommendation. That's something that we will talk to you about if you have an idea of a couple of different people and you can't decide. We will help you decide which ones are probably the best fit. Next, you'll need to have your financial aid documents. So like FAFSA, student airport, those kinds of things to kind of back up what you're saying in your financial need essay. And then finally, proof of citizenship, which is just your passport. The timeline for these applications. So Pickering and Rangel are very similar. Payne is a little bit different, but for all of these, you will know whether or not you have been selected as a fellow probably before you get your graduate school acceptance, which is quite nice because you can, go into that knowing, okay, I already have funding, or I don't have funding, I need to think of something else. In many cases, like I said, you can go to one of the institutions that these different programs have partnerships with to get additional funding. So it's good to have that already in mind as you're applying and as you're hearing back from schools that you've applied to. So the applications will all open this summer in June. So that's all 3 of them. They should open around the same time. The Pickering and Rangel, those close in late September 2020, and then Payne will close on November 1st. Finalists are selected in late October for Pickering and Rangel, and then December for Payne. Interviews will all take place in Washington, D.C. If you're abroad, they will accommodate Skype or Zoom or whatever those kinds of meetings to chat with you. Those happen in mid-November for Pickering and Rangel, and then mid-January for Payne. And then finally, the fellows are selected shortly after the interviews. So a lot of students who are applying for all 3 are like, what do I do if I'm a finalist for all of them? I say go with the first one that you get because you're not guaranteed to get the others. So Pickering will be first, then Rangel, then Payne. So if you know you have been awarded the Pickering, you would just withdraw your applications for the other 2. All right, so application tips from the foundation. So this is all on the websites, and they all say the same things. This is pretty general information, best practices when it comes to applying for these different types of things. So review the application requirements thoroughly to ensure you're eligible and can be well prepared for the application process. Some things we do not know about you, so make sure that you check your eligibility because we would hate for you to get through the entire application process and realize late that you're actually not eligible. Next, explain in your statement of interest your motivations for applying and identifying your background and experiences for a successful FSO. So you want to show that you understand what makes a good FSO. And you want to show how you display those qualities as well. Next thing, you want to demonstrate academic ability and rigor in studies. Like I said before, they're looking for people who are academically gifted, talented, because of course that makes a good FSO as well. You need to obtain strong letters of recommendation and make sure they get in on time. Again, we would hate for you to go through all of this and then not have your application be reviewed because you couldn't get letters in on time. So plan those things out early, and again, talk to us if you have any questions about who would be a good writer, who would make the stronger case for you, right? So you want to have someone who can speak to your academic ability and those different experiences and skills that you're highlighting in your essays. You want them to reflect them as well in their letters of recommendation. Again, you need to demonstrate the need for financial assistance for graduate school. There's a reason why they have this as part of their application. So talk about why you want to go to graduate school, because as you may know, you don't need to get a master's degree to be an FSO. So why do you want to go to graduate school? Why do you want it in this area? How much is that going to cost you? How much may that set you back? That kind of thing. How will it make you better prepared for a career as a Foreign Service officer? Those kinds of things are important to include in that application. You want to include all relevant extracurricular, community, or volunteer experiences that highlight your leadership roles. So if you are applying for the Payne and you work for the Carolina Survivors Clinic, that's something that you may want to highlight. If you've done any service learning abroad and you're working with certain communities and doing service stuff, those are things that you want to highlight. Any on-campus things that you're doing, whether it's with your sorority or fraternity and you're doing service hours, these are all things that make you more competitive for these awards. Finally, you want to list all relevant college, university, and professional honors and awards. So if you've won a national fellowship in the past, like the Critical Language Scholarship, the Boren, any of those types of things, if you won any honors from the Leadership and Service Center on campus, anything like that, you really want to highlight and have in your application. Next are our tips for crafting a strong application. So we always ask students to think about the story that they want to tell. This is your opportunity to kind of reflect on your past experiences, your life, who you are, who you are becoming, where you want to be, where you want to go. So think about your past, present, and your future, and how different things have pushed you towards this goal of pursuing a career in the Foreign Service. Brag about yourself. This is not the time to be humble. You want to tell them all the great things that you have done and the things that you want to do in the future to help others. There's a way to humbly brag about yourself, if that makes sense. We can help you figure that out. You want to consider the overall message you want to convey, right? So it needs to be succinct. And again, your letters of recommendation need to kind of reinforce that message, right? You are this kind of student, you've been this kind of person, it makes sense for you to have this career. You are the right fit. You want to also really think about your writing skills. So use active and not passive voice. Have someone look over your things besides us. I mean, after so many reviews, it's kind of hard for us to catch little things as well. So maybe have someone who's not in your area, a friend of yours, to read for grammar, syntax, and punctuation. These things are important because one of the skills that they're looking for is strong writing skills as well as verbal skills. And finally, be authentic. Don't tell us what you think we want to hear. Try to be your true self, and that's also going to help you as you go into the interview stage, because you can do all that you want on paper, but if it doesn't translate in person and there's kind of a discrepancy, it's going to be hard for them to fund you the thing. So just be yourself on paper, and hopefully you get to the interview stage and it'll match up with who you are in person and you'll be successful. Okay, you're interested. What are the next steps? So you want to talk with the National Fellowships Advisor, so myself or Jen or Novella. Make an appointment with us. You can do that on our website, nfsp@sc And you can just go into navigate. We're under involvement and engagement, and then National Fellowships Advising. Then you'll find our names there. We're taking online appointments, so email exchange, phone call, Skype, and Microsoft Teams. Just let us know in the comment section which platform you prefer, as well as your contact information. And we will help kind of get the ball rolling. Review the program websites, look at the scholar profiles and resources there, and really see which one's a good fit for you. Like I mentioned before, the Payne is quite different. So really look into them and see, do I want to have a career in international development, or is that just not my thing? So look at them closely and see which ones you want to apply for. Complete an intent to apply form. The deadline was April 10th. You will see that. Don't worry too much about that. We didn't know when we made the deadline that any of this current social distancing or virtual learning would be happening. So just get it into us as soon as possible, just so you'll be in the loop this application cycle. Next thing is identify graduate programs you wish to apply for in your area of focus. So kind of start searching through different programs and also looking at the scholar profiles, seeing their background, and then seeing where they ended up going for grad school could be helpful to you. So just kind of search that in your free time. Over the summer, work on your application. Send us multiple drafts. We will pretty much review as many as you send to us. So go ahead and get started once you know where you want to apply, and we will help you with that throughout the summer. And then you're going to submit your application by the deadline. All right, so this is a little snippet from our website. You can go under National Fellowships to kind of see if we have any past winners. You can go to the make an appointment part to see how you can make an appointment. Again, it's under involvement and engagement, and then National Fellowships Advising. And then you can also go to the news area to see our past winners' news stories. So we had a winner in 2019, and you can read about her background, and kind of her path to the Pickering, which is what she won in 2019. All right, so I know this is not a live webinar, so it's hard for you guys to ask questions, but I have written down a few things. I tried to address most of them throughout the presentation, but I think I addressed most of the questions. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Here's my contact information, or you can just set up an appointment with any of us to ask questions about next steps. One question that I know we get often for students is about applying to graduate school and applying to these fellowships at the same time. So for example, do I need to submit GRE scores is a common question. You do not need to submit GRE scores for the fellowship applications, but your graduate school program may require it. So make sure you're aware of your graduate school admission requirements as it's separate from the fellowship application. So these fellowships do not get you into graduate school. They are the funding mechanism. So please get the deadlines and requirements for your grad programs that you're interested in. That's the main one that I can think of. I think I've answered all of the others throughout, but again, please reach out if you have any questions. We are happy to help, and we are excited that you're planning to apply this year. Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, we look forward to working with you soon. Thank you.